I keep replaying that moment in my head, the one where everything seemed to hang by a thread so thin that even breathing felt dangerous. Because for a while, it truly looked like Anita was slipping away from all of us. And I am not exaggerating when I say that I was already preparing myself for the worst, because that is exactly how the story had been unfolding, slow and cruel, like a storm that refuses to pass. Beyond the Gate spoilers had been hinting at a turning point, a piece of good news for Anita and something far less fortunate for Leslsie. But even knowing that did not make the journey any easier to watch, because the suffering Anita endured felt too real, too heavy, too final. I remember thinking that this was it, that her battle with breast cancer was about to reach its tragic conclusion, that all the pain, all the chemotherapy, all the emotional exhaustion were leading to a heartbreaking end. But then something shifted, something none of us dared to fully believe at first. Anita had been dealing with unbearable pain, the kind that strips a person down to their core, the kind that makes even the strongest soul question whether continuing is worth it. When the infection hit her nervous system, it felt like the final blow, like her body was giving up piece by piece. I could see it in her eyes, that quiet resignation, that silent plea for the suffering to stop. And honestly, I cannot blame her for wanting to let go, because what she went through was beyond what most people could endure. Then came the twist that changed everything. The test revealed that the source of her intense pain was not the cancer spiraling out of control, but rather the antibiotics doing their job. That revelation hit me like a shockwave. I had been bracing myself for devastation, and suddenly there was hope, fragile but undeniable. It felt almost unreal, like the story was pulling us back from the edge just when we thought there was nothing left to hold on to. And yet, the most powerful moment was not just the medical update, it was Anita's decision. At one point, she had signed that form, the one that would have ended it all, the do not resuscitate order, a quiet surrender to the disease that had taken so much from her. That decision alone told me how deep her pain had gone, how far she had fallen into despair. But in the final moments, something changed. Vernon, Danny, and Nicole stood by her, refusing to let her give up, refusing to let her story end like that. I could feel the weight of that scene, the urgency, the desperation, the love. It was not just about convincing Anita to live. It was about reminding her why she should fight. And somehow, through tears and fear and sheer emotional force, they reached her. Anita revoked that decision. She chose to keep going. She chose to fight for her life one more time. That moment, to me, was everything. Because it was not just about survival. It was about the power of family. The way they stood together. The way they refused to let her slip away. It reminded me that sometimes strength does not come from within. Sometimes it comes from the people who refuse to let you fall. Anita's battle was no longer hers alone. It belonged to all of them. And through her suffering, through every painful treatment and every moment of doubt, Anita became something more than just a character in a story. She became a reflection of resilience, a reminder of how brutal cancer can be, but also how powerful the will to live is. Watching her go through chemotherapy, watching her reach the point where she could not take it anymore, it forced me to confront the reality of that disease in a way that felt deeply personal. But it also gave something back. It gave lessons, it gave perspective, it gave a kind of quiet inspiration that lingers long after the scenes are over. Anita's journey was not just about pain. It was about awareness, about the importance of fighting, about protecting oneself, and valuing life even when it feels unbearable. And I think that is what makes her story so impactful, because it does not just entertain, it resonates. Then there is Bill. I did not expect to say this, but he played a crucial role in Anita's turning point. His story about his own mother, his words, his perspective, they reached Anita in a way that nothing else could. It is almost ironic, considering the history between him and Danny, the resentment, the bitterness that still lingers. Danny has every reason to hate him, and yet in this moment, she is grateful. That alone says so much about how serious the situation was, because when someone you despise becomes the reason your loved one chooses to live, you cannot ignore that. You cannot hold on to anger the same way. And Anita clearly took that to heart, because once she was discharged, she did something that caught everyone off guard. She invited Bill to her home. That moment felt loaded with meaning. It was not just a casual invitation, it was intentional, it was significant. Anita wanted him there for a reason. And when she revealed that she wanted to make changes to her will, it became clear that her near-death experience had shifted something inside her. She was reevaluating everything, her priorities, her relationships, her legacy. And I could see Vernon's reaction, that mix of surprise and curiosity, because this was not something he expected. But at the same time, he continued to show his unwavering support. He even arranged for Sharon to visit Anita, a small gesture that carried a lot of emotional weight. It showed that he was fully committed to her recovery, that he would do whatever it takes to help her heal, physically and emotionally. But just as things seem to be stabilizing for Anita, the tension begins to build elsewhere. Because while she is receiving good news, Leslsie is heading in the opposite direction. And I cannot help but feel that everything is about to collide. Vernon makes it clear that the noise caused by Leslie's construction has had a serious impact on Anita's health. That statement alone sets the stage for conflict, because Leslsie is not someone who takes criticism lightly. I can already see the anger building, the frustration, the desperation. We have seen her lose control before. We have seen how far she is willing to go to get what she wants. In previous episodes, her outburst pushed the contractor into a corner, making it impossible to convince the inspector to approve her renovation project. That moment was telling, because it showed that Leslie's usual tactics were failing her. She could not charm her way out of this situation. And for someone like Leslsie, that is a dangerous place to be. Because when manipulation no longer works, she has to face reality, and reality is not something she handles well. So what does she do instead? She swallows her pride, or at least pretends to, and goes to Vernon. She asks for help. That moment, to me, is almost surreal, because I cannot help but question what she is thinking. Does she truly believe that Vernon would side with her after everything she has done, after all the trouble she has caused for his family? It feels like a level of delusion that is almost hard to comprehend. I remember reacting to that scene with disbelief because it felt so out of touch with reality. Leslsie has benefited from the Dupree family's resources before. She has used their money to get what she wanted, and now she is turning around and creating chaos in their lives. And somehow, she expects sympathy. But Vernon's response is exactly what I hoped it would be. He refuses. Not only does he refuse, he makes it clear that her behavior is unacceptable. He even goes a step further and suggests that she should leave. That moment feels like a turning point for Leslsie, whether she realizes it or not. Because this is not just rejection, it is a warning. Vernon calls out her intentions. He sees through her actions. He understands that her renovation project is not just about rebuilding a house. It is about revenge. And he will not allow that. Not when it puts Anita at risk. Not when it disrupts their lives in such a harmful way. What stands out to me the most is how firm he is. There is no hesitation, no attempt to soften the blow. He reminds Leslsie that she is using money that came from Anita's efforts, from the Barbara Fund, to cause harm. That truth cuts deep because it exposes the hypocrisy in her actions. And in that moment, Leslsie is forced to face something she has been avoiding. Gratitude, or rather, the lack of it. Because instead of appreciating what she has been given, she is choosing to retaliate, to create conflict, to act out of spite. And Vernon is not having it. He is drawing a line, and for once, Leslsie cannot simply cross it. But I do not think this is the end of her story. If anything, it feels like the beginning of something even more intense. There is a reunion coming between Leslsie, Eva, and Peaches, and I have a feeling that this is where everything will come to a head. The issue of gratitude, of accountability, of self-awareness, it is all going to be brought into the spotlight, and I find myself wondering if Leslsie is capable of change, because up until now, she has shown very little willingness to reflect on her actions. But maybe, just maybe, this is the moment where someone finally gets through to her. And if anyone can do it, it might be Peaches. I am holding on to that hope, because as chaotic and frustrating as Leslsie can be, there is always that possibility of growth, of redemption. But it will not come easy, and it will not come without consequences. As I look at everything that is unfolding, I cannot help but feel that the story is entering a new phase. Anita's survival is not just a victory, it is a catalyst. It shifts the dynamics, it changes the stakes, it forces everyone around her to confront their own choices. And I am right there, watching, analyzing, trying to piece together what comes next. Because if there is one thing I have learned from this story, it is that nothing stays calm for long. And just when you think you understand where it is going, it finds a way to surprise you.